liberty. All right. Let's see. And we get a motion to approve the agenda for tonight, November 4th.
Move to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And we also get a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting, October 21st.
Move to approve the minutes from the October 21st school committee meeting.
Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're great. School committee chairperson comments. I don't have any comments this evening, so I'll keep us going. Next up, we've got community comments. And just a reminder, this is going to be the only time in the agenda tonight that we're available for community comments. If there's anyone in the room or anybody online, please speak up. Any hands raised, Sam?
I have 0 attendees currently.
You have 0 attendees. All right.
They're all here.
They're all here, yeah. All right. We're usually a YouTube sensation, so. All right, I guess we're good with community comments. So next we can move on to student comments. I think we've got a group here tonight from Clough Elementary School to present on reflection activities.
Okay. All right, we're getting a little settled, and we have one friend who maybe they'll join in while we're presenting, who's not here yet, but. So I have brought this awesome group of 4th graders here with me from Clough. And one of the things that we have been working on with all of our students, but especially in 4th grade, is really talking about the importance of reflection and reflecting on our learning. And that's also getting us ready to lead up to, we are going to be having student-led conferences in 4th grade. So this is a big new thing for 4th graders. So in preparation for that, these students are going to share with you, they have been sort of building a portfolio where they are going to tell you what they have selected to share with you of some things that they've been reflecting on. And what you're going to hear from them too is that they get to take this portfolio, or sometimes it's the iPad, they might tell you that, home and share this reflection with their parents at home. And our friend Nicholas is not here. I will do his job. He really wanted to show you that they have some portfolio instructions in the front of their portfolio where, it says things like, have your child show you their work and reflection, sign off that you've seen it, respond if you'd like. And it's been really awesome to see all of the parent and guardian comments, return it to school the following day, that kind of thing. Yay! Oh, good, perfect timing, Nicholas. Come on over here, buddy. I was just taking over your job a little bit, but I didn't do a whole lot, okay? So I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna let, they each have picked one piece that they want to share with you, why they picked it to share and sort of the reflection that they have done, the work they've done. So I already told them about the portfolio instructions, Nicholas. So if you want to jump to like what you want to share.
So, part that is usually overlooked is the I am poem. It's a good representation of how we started at the beginning of the year. It also shows us details on how we've progressed. And
What are you hoping that by the end of the year that you have, when you look at your writing from the beginning of the year to the end, what are you hoping that you'll see?
we're hoping to see a big progressment in how she learned.
And do you want to share a little bit of your I am poem with them?
First bit is, I am joyful and funny. I wonder about space and stars. I hear the sounds like an airplane. I see the sunset over the sky. I want to see the sunrise. I am joyful and funny. There's 2 more of those sections, but that's just the first bit.
Awesome, thanks, Nicholas. All right, Zach, you want to share your reflection piece?
So, my reflection is,
You can use the table, table.
And
You want to tell them about like what you reflected on with your poem?
so my reflection is like, I like my I am home because it makes me happy. And those things are like stuff like one of my favorite animals that I like here and that one stuff.
Why don't you read, I think you should read your second stanza of your I am poem, because I personally really like the first line. Is that okay? Are you comfortable reading that?
I pretend I am a director of operations in my head only.
He pretends he's a director of operations. Is that, I just love that line. And I know who I'm gonna go to when I need some more guidance on things.
Feel excited when a squirrel comes close to me. I touch my dog to snuggle with her. I worry when the winter's coming. I would sit at night, I can't sleep. I'm a squirrel lover who wants to go to Alaska.
Nice. Okay. Thank you, Zach. Brayden, you want to share what you were going to tell them about that you're reflecting on?
So, I want to tell you about my nonfiction writing area. So it's not here because it was on my I did it on our iPads. So sometimes we bring our iPads home to show what your parents are for reflections instead of just bringing this. So I'll read my reflection. I am working on a nonfiction paragraph about football. I think I did good, but I would like to improve adding more transition words to make it a better flow. So it's just like something, and then like what I said about the improving, that's like you should think like I'm probably gonna think it after I wrote it to like try to make it improve a better flow. Sorry.
Awesome. Thanks, Brayden. Alexis, you want to share what you're going to talk about?
So I am sharing about our unit 1 post assessment. So I'm in math. So in this, we had to solve problems about factors and word problems. And instead of using one of the other sheets, we used a complete sheet for just that test. So
Want to give an example of like
Yeah.
what the chart looks like so they can see that?
one of them says, so one column has questions about, and then the problems that they're asking you about. And then if I can do this well already, I could put a check there if I think I could do that. I can do this sometimes. I could put a check there if I think I can do it sometimes, but not always. And I need to learn to do this as if I don't really know how to do it. So one of them is, can you name all the factors of a number? And I chose I can do this sometimes because I can't always do it. And then at the bottom of the sheet, it asks about 2 things that you learned how to do or to improve on. So I said, I learned how to solve a ratio table. I also learned how to find factors.
Thanks, Alexis. Lisa, are you ready to share?
Yes.
So I'm sharing my nonfiction paragraph writing, and I'll read you my reflection. I am working on a nonfiction paragraph about ice cream. I would like to improve adding more details to make my writing more interesting.
So what did you say? You wanted to add more details to make your writing more interesting?
Yeah.
Okay. And you were writing about a topic I love, ice cream.
I like it too.
Awesome. All right. And Madeline, you want to share what you reflected on, or what you want to share that?
I'm
your portfolio?
reflecting on this unit on this assessment. It's, so we did this thing, kind of like what Alexis said. We were doing like, I can do this well, and I can do this sometimes. And, I just like how we did that instead of doing this. But for our class, we also did it. I think we did this too. And we just wrote like how like well we can do on this stuff already. And
What, do you want to pick out something that you know, that you felt like you did well on that assessment?
for the assessment, I think I did well on the like prime numbers and composite.
Prime and composite numbers, awesome. And I don't think that anybody share, but I can see, so you can't see this, but all of them have then, their parents have written back comments. So they've reflected and then they've gone home and they've shared it with parents at home, and the parents have done a nice job, I feel like, of giving very specific responses, you know, to their reflections. So it's neat to see how that communication is going to continue throughout the year. I don't know. So thank you, everybody, for sharing your reflection. I don't know if you have any questions for them. I told them that you might have questions, and that it was okay that they could answer those.
So what do you think is the benefit of doing this? What are you gonna get out of it, do you think?
You want to go first, Nicholas?
I think you can look back at your previous work and see how much you've improved and try and improve all the things that you said you needed to improve.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something else, Madeline?
So I think how it's like when you do it once, it's like it's just to see how like you can do and on other tests and other things you've done. I agree with saying what Nicholas said. You can look back on your work, and if you can improve something, then practice on it. What Nicholas said.
Nicholas, you spoke so well for everybody.
What's your process for coming up with your reflection on a given topic?
For picking the pieces that you put in the portfolio. Alexis, you want to share?
So our teachers usually pick the pieces that we're putting in. That was a tongue twister. So they choose the pieces that we're putting in our portfolio. And then we do a reflection. With the one that I did, I had a careless mistake of, instead of doing 10 times something, I did 20 times something and got way off. So I said that, and then because I can do that thing well, it's just sometimes I make careless mistakes, so that can just show, like, if you made a careless mistake, then you could say that.
Mhm. And hopefully, maybe eventually, we'll get to a point where you'll get to pick some of the pieces that go in there, because I think that's also important too, that you all are figuring out like what you want to focus on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll add to that. So like the teachers like let us like write what we want to, but teachers sometimes like give us like sentences you can like start with, or like sometimes like ideas you can write. But yeah, you can just pick, but you might use the ideas, or you could just figure it out in your own head.
Zach, how did you know Director of Operations?
Why was that in your head? I want to be in Zach's head many times. I don't wonder what. It's an interesting head, right? Yeah. What was it making you think about wanting to be a director of operations?
And then it'd be cool.
Yeah. Does sound very cool.
You can,
You can be an intern with a doctor, or a shadow with Mr. J. Byer. That's his title.
of fun stuff.
great things to learn about.
You're completely in control and you have no control.
Or a paradox of operations.
I actually have to, because, you know, when Nicholas kind of came in on the fly and he only read part of his I am poem, but he also had a line that I love. And I share a line from another line in your poem. I love that in his third stanza, he has, I understand math and its glory. So this mathematician here is like, I love the I am poems for what the kids choose to share. And he made a good point that he said, you know, when we were talking this morning about coming here tonight, he's like, we talked about how think about by the end of this year, how much you'll have in these portfolios that you'll be able to really look back. And like he said, see all the progress that they've made.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you coming out.
Do you want me to bring these back or do you want to bring them back?
Dr. Cohen, over to you for superintendent administrative reports.
Okay. I got you. You want to, yep.
Good, thank you. So I have just a very brief update, just to fill in a couple things that have happened. Can you go back to that first page? Just had to put in this really super cute picture from the spooky run. And that was, you know, a little over a week ago, but it was, we lucked out with weather. It was a really fun day and lots of, I really appreciative youth. And that was my favorite picture of the day with some of this, the students that were running that day. If you can go into the next one. Wanted to fill you in and everyone in on where we're at with the MSBA. On October 30th, so just last week, the board of directors voted to invite Mendon-Upton into the accelerated repair program. And we're really excited about that. We have to be very clear that they're inviting us in to collaborate with them on the schematic design study for a potential roof replacement project, because there's lots of steps. So that's, I pulled the language directly from the letter, just to be clear here. But we're really excited that we're fortunate that we were invited into this round. We weren't sure if they would have enough funding or that possibility to happen. I know I've been giving you ongoing updates, but it's official now. We will be assigned an owner, project manager, and designer. That'll be pre-selected and randomly assigned by MSBA. So we won't be able to choose that, but they will let us know. We have other requirements that we have to adhere to. Our commencement date began November 1st officially. And so all of the timelines continue from that November 1st timeline. If you go to the next slide, we'll just continue with a couple more of our prerequisites. Just for timelines, we have to approve funding for the schematic design portion within 90 calendar days of that November 1st date. We have to submit the certified documentation that we have appropriated the funding. It must be submitted within 120 days of that date. And then we'll be expected to complete the design study and receive authorization to execute no later than 14 months. We haven't met with the follow-up with MSBA. I attended attended that board of directors meeting, attended another follow-up webinar they had for superintendents on many aspects of programming on the following day on November 1st. And as we get more information, we'll start to bring it forward. But once we have what you'll need to vote on, essentially it would be bringing that locally here to you for you to vote for that schematic design. And we have funding in our capital stabilization account to cover that. But once we know what that up to that amount would be, then we have the draft language. And if you're interested in knowing more, just about this. All of the details are on that webpage that I had linked to. It's the Accelerated Repair Program webpage, and it goes back to all of the documents. And as I receive any more information from them, I'll just continue to send it to you, and especially to the capital planning subcommittee. Any questions on that?
Do we know how much that is approximately?
No.
Schematic.
The schematic,
Yeah, I mean,
when they gave us the preliminary stuff, I think they had a price in it that was quite less than what
We thought
I
it
talked
would.
to
Yeah.
the Associates and asked them.
Yeah.
They told me, a couple $100,000 or $150,000, somewhere in there. Seems like they're saying a lot less, like in this 80-90 range. I believe that because they picked the design team.
Yeah.
The design team must have an agreement as to what these things would cost.
sure.
So the agreement to execute is,
We'll bring here and have it, the first thing I have some forms that just need to be signed by the chair, by myself. And that's just saying that we're going to adhere to all of their guidelines. And then there's a form where we have to give them access of who's going to have access into the MSBA online program. So those are the first forms they sent us. We just received it on Friday. We're working on them. I have it to be signed. We'll send that in. And then at a future meeting within the 90-day range, we have a number of meetings. We would bring it forward and have the official vote. And then we would have to have, probably from Alyssa, like the minutes, that would show that, and also the documentation to show that going forward too, of what was said at the meeting. And that's kind of the official documentation that we look forward to them.
Do we know the next phase, right? So now we're at schematic design and program owner. What's after that? What's the success rate of going from phase 2 to phase 3?
I didn't ask them what the success rate was, but it's something I can ask them to see how many, do make it through that process. I mean, I would guess that most, they're pretty rigorous even from the beginning to make sure that you have everything you need, but every once in a while, there might be a district or a place that didn't quite have what they needed, or maybe something was said, or something fell through, or financing fell through. Because obviously the ultimate financing has to go through for it to all happen in that other phase once we get through the feasibility study. In the chart, I don't know if you remember from capital planning, there was almost this is the first phase. We have to do step 1, 2, 3, 4, and then once you get through that, you go to the next one, and there's a visual on one of my past presentations, and I can find that and pull that up to let you know what the details are.
and this would be for all of the funding or a portion of the funding for the roof, or?
It's, they haven't communicated what the reimbursement rate would be.
But we're expecting 40 to 50% is ballpark.
It's a guess.
It's a guess, but we always need a swag.
You could ask the kid when she's here.
The reparations, yeah. We'll be signing Zach to help us out with the MSBA. He's our new project manager.
I think it's all said and done, right? I mean, we gotta get the roof done one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully there'll be MSBA accelerated repair funds.
Yeah.
What's interesting, I think Jim was thinking the same thing you were, I think, is we're moving forward, we're starting to put skin in the game of 100K to do schematics, this and that. Hopefully, the approval process is relatively high.
Right, are we at
And then-
95%
or 5%. Right.
Right.
I would imagine they're not asking or 200 schools to go all put 100K up to then only select 5% of them.
Yeah.
So based on the chart in the MSBA website, between programs that were accepted between 2012 and 2015, there were 125 schools approved for projects, and some of them didn't have or haven't completed. I assume that means they probably
They're still in the works, or, yeah.
maybe they're still in the works. Once you get past 2015, that number drops, which I assume is that they're still more than they should got stricter about it. But
Okay. So it's great. It's good news though.
It's pretty good numbers.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
92%.
All right, great, thanks. And then I just wanted to give some highlights of some recent events and upcoming events, which I try to do at each of these meetings. I already mentioned the Spooky Run, which was a lot of fun. We had the Cardboard Creation Day. I made sure I showed up at both buildings and I actually got to see second grade at both buildings, which was really fun. And I bought a bracelet from the jewelry store that our students made, which I should have, and it was 0 cents. I offered 5,000 for $10. And they said, no, just for you, 0 cents. And it was decorated. It was nice. We had jewelry stores and schools and lots of homes. There was Fenway Park. And, we tried to, I was asking about Pesky's pole and like here, where's the green monster, and had some good conversations with our students. And it was a lot of fun. And what was nice is I was able to start over at Clough at the first session where nothing had been built yet with the second graders. But when I went over to Memorial was one of the last, second to last session or so towards the end of the day, where other things are created, but they would go in and add or create different things like robots, etc. So it was a good day. We had the Misco Halloween activity the middle school last weekend, and we also had the Nipmuc Drama Guild Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and you can see a picture of that in the upper right hand. But it's been incredibly busy week or so of activities. It's hard to keep up with all of them, but they've all been pretty fun, and we've been lucky with some of the weather and other things for our outdoor events as well. If you go to the next slide, just a couple highlights. PTO is having a cook's night off for Misco, and that's coming up just this week. And in my newsletter, I put a snow day contest, so I'm just trying to get this out so I can get some people to submit. I suppose you could always submit if you want, but it is for students to share how they might use one of their portrait of a learner superpowers on a future snow day. And hopefully I can work that into a potential future snow day announcement of sorts someday. Not anytime soon, just trying to get ahead of it here. So I added that into the newsletter. And then upcoming events, just a reminder for that last page. We have a full release day tomorrow for election day. And then here we have teacher professional development. That's the educator directed PD day. And we have coming up, Memorial is going to be having a family math night. Of course, we have Veterans Day coming up soon after that. We have our school committee meetings. Memorial will be hosting a new report card information night. And I know there'll be follow-up information sessions too at Clough as well. We have the parent-teacher conferences, and you just heard, and I'm assuming they might talk about it, but we have some student-led conferences that we're piloting this year as part of our strategic plan. And early release, and then the Thanksgiving recess. It's a busy November, going to be fitting a lot of things in there, but looking forward to it. Also, the Nipmuc Showcase, we've moved up the date of the showcase for Nipmuc, and it's not just for 8th grade parents and students to come learn about Nipmuc. It's for all grades, earlier grades too. So we're trying to expand so we have the ability to share all the wonderful things that are going on at Nipmuc and the opportunities that we offer here. Any questions on that? All right. That was my report. And next up we have
Jen's up next.
Oh, yeah. Come on up. This is so exciting.
Usually it's Jay.
I
have to wait
know.
for.
I'm gonna put Jay up for you, I guess.
Not that I don't love Jay's reporting.
Hi there.
Nick?
How is everyone?
Good.
So this is a fall update. I did talk to Dr. Cohen to see if there was anything specific that you guys were interested in, but she didn't have anything specific. So we're just going to do a quick overview, update on ESY, talk a little bit about the new IEP implementation, a little bit about survey results we did in the fall, and then what our priorities are for the upcoming school year. So if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. Happy to stop and address anything that you have. Thanks, Sam. It's you. So extended school year happens in our summer. This is our summer program. This is just a quick overview. This year we had about 40 students participate in our program. We had a 4-week and a 6-week program. Those are more functional skills, community development, students who participate in life skills programming and work intensive programs throughout the year. So that's our summer services for them to keep their education going and have them continue with the structure that they have during the school year. We also had about 40 students receive related services only, and that's our occupational therapy, physical therapy, reading, and communication, speech and language skills. I bolded the reading because that is most of those students, and that's something we've been working on for the last 4 or 5 years since I've been in the district, really looking at those interventions early on in the elementary level to minimize our reading gaps as the kids get into the middle and high school. And I also, it's okay. And then we have to give a big shout out to all the exceptional ESY staff who dedicate 6 weeks of their time over the summer to come in and support our students. They get a little break at the end of the school year. We take July 4th week off, and then they have a week and a half at the end. But most of their time is dedicated to providing services for students. So we are very appreciative of them and all they contribute to our students and families. So a big shout out to them. And then the next couple slides are just some of the community events that they did during ESY. So you have a little bit of context. They went out and visited the local TV station this summer, which was super cool. The kids had a chance to sit behind the desks. They had a chance to go behind the camera and look at all the different roles that happened during our community television productions. As you can tell, they were all big fans of the camera and the green screen that was explained to them, like what that looks like and the color contrast and all that. So they had a great visit to the TV station. They also did some bowling adventure, so to develop along those PT and OT skills and building some of those core skills, and then the socialization piece. We did adaptive bowling, so you'll see the ramps that the ball goes on. I wish that was around when I was bowling, because that seems like I probably would have been exceptional if I had those tools. But they had a great time, and then there also was a stop for lunch. So that gives the kids an ability to kind of socialize, do some fun activities, and practice those soft skills that they're learning throughout their programming. So that was a nice opportunity for them. And then lunch at George's. So this is always this we didn't do for this for a couple years. This was back this year. So George's is cool because they have the outdoor picnic tables. For those of you who haven't been there, they have a little play area. The students do get to go up and order their ice cream. We don't do the meal because that's a little bit more complex, but they do at the end go up and order their ice cream. So that's cool. So they had a great time there. This is more of a big social environment too, because they had the play area, which you can see in one of the pictures in the sandbox, and the kids really love that. So those are just a few of our outings this year. Every Wednesday, they did a community outing. So that was a new addition last year to the program. So to get the kids out of the classroom and kind of generalizing the skills that they're learning, we incorporated those every week. We had done just a couple the year before that and a couple the year before that. But that has now become part of the regular programming, which is super cool. And they get to see things that they may not see, like the TV station, and kind of give them ideas of what they might look to do when they graduate. So Mara Beth, who's in the top left, is our teacher that leads a lot of this initiative, and I can't thank her enough for what she does, because she is the grand master of all things. Any questions about ESY? Okay. New IEP implementation. This is super exciting. So as you recall, last year I talked about the new IEP form coming out after 10 long years of focus groups and development and piloting. It was issued out last year, and then we were all expected to start in September. In DESE fashion, they allowed everyone to postpone that till November, but we were ready to go because we did a lot of training last year. We brought in Alan Bloom. He worked with all our providers and our special educators last year, not only on the IEP, but also formulating our goals to be more data-driven and measurable. So we did a lot of work with that. The counselors did some work with John Crocker to also look at our goals so that we were really ready to launch the new IEP, because it really is a more data-driven document. So we started in September because we were ready and we had done a ton of work, and everyone was super excited to kind of move forward with it. So that rolled out. So far, so good. I think everyone's kind of working out the kinks. It's formatting a little bit differently. So we are explaining it to families when they come into IEP meetings, kind of what that new document looks like. Nothing is being lost. It's just shuffled as to where it looks. So that connection has been helpful for families. We did create a district resource guide that goes through every single page to kind of help us facilitate that process. Lauren Pokernicki and I kind of collaborated on that. And we have actually shared it out with a couple other districts because there wasn't anything for like the behind the scenes people to kind of say, okay, this is what the old IEP looked like. This is the new IEP, and this is how we're going to address it with that new frame or lens of data. So we did that work. That's been helpful too. And then DESE did launch the what parents need to know about the new IEP. So that is on their website. And that information is available if parents want to dive a little bit deeper into what's happening. Any questions about the new IEP? Therapeutic supports. So as you know, I talk a lot about this. It's something that I'm passionate about. I feel like students need to be in a good frame of mind in order to access their education. And so therapeutic supports has really been at the forefront of what we've been doing for the last 2 or 3 years. The BRIGHT program is a program that we've collaborated with for 4 years now. We're in our 5th year with the BRIGHT program. Started at the middle school, we expanded my first year here to the high school, and then last year we implemented the therapeutic support model at the elementary. We didn't categorize them as BRIGHT because BRIGHT baseline framework was really about students re-entering. And we didn't really have that need at the elementary level. So if you remember when I was talking about the therapeutic supports at the elementary, it was really more proactive to help put things in place to help students be able to regulate and access their education. So this year we went back to the BRIGHT program coordinators who we work with and consult with, and we kind of ran that elementary model by them, and they thought it would be a good fit. So we're actually one of probably about 12 elementary level models in the state. So BRIGHT is venturing into elementary, and we're one of about 12 that they're working with right now, which is kind of exciting work. So they're collaborating with us at all 3 levels this year. We are kind of doing a recalibration because of staff turnover in the middle school and the high school. We are kind of doing a recalibration and get back together. So BRIGHT is working with all 3 of our teams at the same level of support, which means ongoing consultation every month, access to a support network. They just launched a new data system to help kind of develop things internally and use a systematic approach to the services that we provide. So we did sign on for all 3 levels of support this year. And that's another way for us to be very consistent across the district so that the expectations are clear, the supports are clear, and then the work that we do is really all driving in the same goal. Any questions about the therapeutic supports?
So is the BRIGHT program and the work that you're doing with them still considered a transitional program, return to school, or is it more long-term therapeutic support, for example, our kids with emotional impairment?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. So we pronged it a little bit. So it's more of like a pathway for us. So part of the BRIGHT program is the reentry piece. So students who are out for medical or hospitalization coming back in. Another piece of BRIGHT is to continue to support those kiddos so that there's not concerns later on, right? So proactively saying, okay, well, you were out for medical, you were out for hospitalization, what can we put in place? So you may not be accessing the support program on a regular basis, but you're still on our radar, right? Because we want to make sure that we're providing those supports. That was more of the model at the elementary school because there's no direct instruction happening in those programs. So when we talk about the difference between therapeutic supports and therapeutic model, we don't have direct instruction happening in a therapeutic setting. What we have is proactive supports to help students access in their classroom. So that's where it was a little bit kind of like, does this meet the classification as BRIGHT? Because BRIGHT has a very, very strict outline of what they do. So we did have our local consultants, we have 2 of them, come in and just meet with us and talk about what we were doing to make sure it still fit the BRIGHT model. And they felt it did because of that component of, elementary, we don't see a ton of hospitalizations, right? So to think that it would have to go to a hospitalization before we can provide supports is not a method that we really love because we don't want to see kids fail if we can preventively put things in place to stop that from happening. So it looks a little bit different, but they did feel like elements of it were enough to support that model. So that's why they are collaborating with us on that. Did I answer your question? Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions on the therapeutic supports? So at the end of last year, we did a couple of surveys. We sent out a parent survey talking about our IE process, services, communication, being able to engage in the IEP process, talking about your students' strengths and weaknesses, electronic signature software, just kind of a lot of different things. So I did a quick summary for you. I'm happy to share the survey itself. If you want to see the contents of the questions, I can do that later on. And I just did some highlights. So 92% of our respondents consistently were pleased with our services. They felt overall, so I put it into a chart, then color coded it, and then looked at anything below a 3. So it was a scale of 1 to 5. So anything below a 3 to me was a red square that we need to take a look at. So 92% of the respondents consistently were a 3 or above in the services and the questions, logistics, all that kind of stuff. Program and service updates were the biggest highlight, that they felt that the services that we put out over the last couple of years were really meeting the needs of their students. They were pleased with their IEP process and their team. They felt that they were able to actively engage in those processes and had people that they went to. And then the IEP process itself of engaging in thoughtful conversation about their students, where their strengths are, where there's some continued challenges, and how we can support that work. Areas of growth was information on community resources. So I don't know if you remember, but in the last 2 years, we've talked about creating resources for families and making connections to resources. So that was an area of growth for us, because not everyone is getting the information. So it's tailored towards when we go into an IEP meeting. If there's a student who may have a social emotional need, we may be offering counseling, connections in the community, or if there are some behavioral challenges, we may be making connections to BCBAs and center-based services. So that was one area that we need to grow, because consistently we weren't seeing that our resources were getting to all families, or that they didn't know about those resources. So that's something that we'll continue to work on this year. And then we also asked for topics for parent events. So what would entice you to come in and attend a webinar or a conversation, or some educational materials and presenters that you feel would be appropriate to you in your current situation? And these were just some of the topics. Finding services, that home and center-based services. So I think that links nicely to the info and the community resources and how we can get that out a little bit broader. Understanding the IEP, especially with the new IEP coming out, that was a concern for a lot of people. They knew it was happening. They had heard some talk about it, but they didn't really know what it was going to look like. And then the behavior strategies. So some of our families who struggle with students with dysregulation or behaviors, like what can we do? And we did do a series 3 years ago with a local agency and BCBAs who did some behavior strategies. I think now it's probably time to revisit that, because now we're at a point where it's 3 or 4 years old, and our population has probably changed a little bit. So that's something that we'll look at this year moving forward. Any questions on the survey?
I'd love to look at some of the results at some point.
I can send you the questions. You want the results too?
Well, just see.
Okay, I'll send you the color coded chart, okay?
What was the?
Don't put it out anywhere.
What was your response rate? How many people completed the survey?
I think,
Families it was.
I want to say between 25 and 30. The nice part was the demographics were pretty evenly spaced out between schools. So I did ask to put what school your child attended. If it was multiple, they would just pick which one, and out of district. So I included everyone. So it was nicely divided across. So I thought it gave a good scope across like all areas, because sometimes we have a lot of elementary families that respond and not so many high school, or vice versa. But it was pretty even across. Yeah. So I'll send you the questions too, just so you can kind of see. All right. Any other questions about the parent survey? Okay. Next one is a staff survey. So then I sent, so I had a friend who works in another district, and every year they send out a survey about administrators. So she was horrified by it. So I thought, well, I'd like to do that. I'd like to hear what people have to say. So I sent out a survey about myself. I did it hard copy to make sure that everyone knew it was confidential and they could write what they needed to write. I asked questions about supportiveness, availability. Again, happy to share the survey with you that I sent out. And again, it was on a 4 or 5 scale: meets, exceeds, needs improvement, or there was a 4 block that they could answer. So this is a quick summary of that. 89 indicated meeting or exceeding expectations. Some of the highlights was that I was collaborative and approachable and supportive of staff and students. And then some areas of growth was increased classroom visits. So that was an interesting one. It wasn't just visibility. It was that the request was for me to be in classes more. So that's something I'm working on this year. And then review the communication chain, because there was a few comments that said that they didn't know information. So I don't necessarily know if it's me giving out information or just making sure the information that I give out then trickles down to where people are. So looking at the review of the communication chain to make sure everyone is hearing the same message and they know where it's coming from and they have an opportunity to give feedback on that information. So that was That was my survey. And then priorities moving forward, we're gonna work on those parent workshops like I just talked about. We had some good feedback from families about what they were looking for. So we're gonna put those in place for the upcoming year. We're gonna increase our focus on data. So really making decisions, looking at data, driven by the IEP, but also driven by, interventions and putting supports in place prior to. I don't love the wait to fail model. So looking at how we can use the information that we do have to put things proactively in place to support all of our students. And then expanding our community mental health supports. The counselors and I had William James College present the other day on some of their resources that are more community-based. And looking at how we can collaborate with Mendon-Upton and the school to talk about those mental health supports that are available through William James in their platform. So that's kind of the work that we're looking at this year.
Is that the interface program?
It is. Are you a member? Oh, so
Fantastic.
I'm trying. Yeah. So that's what we're working on this year. So they came out and did a nice presentation for all the counselors. And now it's just trying to look at the messaging and that piece, because it really is more valuable if we are tied in with our communities and not just as a school district. So that's some of the stuff that we're looking at.
It's been less than a 2-week turnaround for families to find therapists.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
Yeah. So that's where we are with that.
Correct.
Questions?
Thanks, Jen.
Awesome. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Take care. Talk about some numbers.
My stand-in is not here, so I'm not for him today. By the way, nature's classroom was a lot of fun. Thanks for that. All right, so. All right, so what I tried to do this time is kind of look at, we finished third of the year, we're exactly 4 months into the school year. So where are we trending in various areas compared to what we've done in previous years? I only went back 3 years. Just to give you some comparison stuff. First of all, you do have the year-to-date report, the expenditure report that comes out of the software that was shared with you, which has lots and lots of numbers. But basically, this is the 3-year history of the first 4 months. The scale there has a different story. I just like using that scale, but someday I'll tell you about it. We look first at salaries. You can see if you look at the trend, 23 to 24 was about the same. 25 was about $1 million higher than 23 and 24, but we had an extra pay period this year, which was on October 31st, which factored in. Last year, that pay period was November 1st. The year before that, it was November 2nd. Pushes it into the next quarter. But what that tells me is that salary-wise, we're still in line. Obviously, salaries are going up. We've got COLAs and other things that impact that. But we're on target with where we are as far as salaries. As far as instructional supplies, you can see in 23, we were much higher than we were in 24 or 25, but we also had final payments for 2 large purchases in 23, and that's why that number is so much higher. This year, we're trending a little bit higher than I think we were a year ago. We haven't had any major purchases, but it seems like I processed a lot more orders the first 4 months this year than I have in previous years. Either that or it's just I'm getting old. It seems to be more than I can handle. We're not sure which yet. If we go on to building maintenance, we're pretty much trending pretty much the same over the three years, little over 200,000 in that range as far as supplies. Now, what have we been fixing? Different stuff every year. This year, we've been doing a lot on HVAC and water treatment. Quite honestly, I don't remember everything we had to fix last year or the year before. It seems to me elevators were a big deal last year. But again, we're spending about the same amount of money over that same, frame of time. So I look at that as a positive thing. Technology, same thing. We're kind of trending right around, 23 was lower, 24, I believe, would be the $200,000 that we put into iPads. 25, we had that same payment, but we're in the same range there as well. Technology is mostly the lease payments on MacBooks, desktops, switches, all those various things. Other than that, there is instructional software that we purchase and all of that, but it's not, again, I don't see major swings when I see numbers like this. This looks fairly stable for the first 4 months.
But we didn't do the iPad refresh this year.
No, but we still had to pay the one that we did a year ago. So we didn't add to it, which is why you see it's a little bit
Well, wouldn't
less.
that mean just one less tranche being paid for?
No, because we still have to pay 200,000 a year for the first batch. We were gonna add another 200,000, which would have made it 400,000 a year. We didn't do that.
Okay.
But we still have to pay the first 200. I hadn't figured out a way to get them to stop charging us. I'm working on that.
It'd be like Doyle.
Yeah, right. I can give you an update on that as well. Out of district tuition. This, I would tell you, you see a lot of variety here. You see 665, 432, 785. This has to do with their billing. It doesn't have to do with the cost. We have the same number of kids out. Tuitions have gone up. We've gotten more bills. We also had a couple of prior year bills that had to get paid out of this year. So that impacts it as well. This is all still in line with what we budgeted as far as where we're going. You know, it's not like outrageous, but again, cost of private tuition and transportation is going up dramatically. And then the last piece on the fields, you can see where in 23 and 24, we spent, you know, $10,000, a little bit more. We've spent about 34,000 this year. We did invest money in the fields this year as far as a fertilization program and weed killers and stuff like that. And we've paid for some of that in the fall. So we have made an investment in the fields. We'll find out if it makes a big difference or not as time goes on, but we are doing a more scheduled approach to fertilizing and aerating. I know they've been out aerating, I think it was about 3 weeks ago. So there's a little bit of an investment there. But if you look at the total budget and the percentage of the budget we spent as of October 31st, 27, 26, and 32%, all that pretty much is in line with where we should be. The FY25, again, I would go back to that additional payroll, which is about $1.1 million each payroll. That adds that cost to it. And that's about it as far as where we're going. I was gonna do a snow and ice one, but I thought 3 years of zero wasn't necessary at this point in time.
About heating oil.
The heating oil. So I went back to them and I started pulling out bills from 3 and 4 years ago and complaining about how I thought they would charge us the right amount on various bills. It got knocked down to about 13,700 when it was all said and done. That they agreed that that would be okay. They were trying to overcharge us on that last bill by charging us a higher price per gallon. They tried to say, well, you know, you really didn't have that much left in your reserves, but I didn't buy into it. So we saved a little bit. We still had to pay them a little, around 14,000, but that's better than 17,000. That's the way I look at it.
I meant year-to-date heating oil.
Oh, that one. We haven't had to buy any oil yet this year. We filled up at the very beginning of the summer. Generally we try to keep the tanks full over the summer as opposed to empty so that they don't get moisture in them and stuff. So we filled up at the end of the year. So heat's just starting to come on. I haven't heard about a first delivery yet, but I'm sure it's coming at some point. We did lock in this year at $2.66 per gallon is our locked in price, which at the time I locked it was about 5 to 10 cents higher than what I saw. Like if I went to order my oil, which many of us use for our home heating oil now. I did try to reach out to that company to see if they would deliver to us, and they won't because they don't have a truck that holds 5,000 gallons. They said they didn't seem to be interested in dealing with a big commercial thing. So our contract this year is through the same collaborative, but now that contract on the state is owned by Devaney. So that's where we're getting our oil from. And they're doing our generators as well. They're doing everything. And I think we put it in the weekend memo. We locked in. I just recently signed a new electricity supply contract. Our current contract expires in May. We're only paying 9.5 cents a kilowatt, which is a ridiculously low price. The new contract we're signing is about 12.1 cents a kilowatt, and it again is a 3-year contract. And I think that's a pretty decent price because I know the municipal aggregation price that the towns have is a little over 14 cents, but the going rate out there is 16 to 18 cents. So I think 12 is a good deal, and I wanted to lock that in because I think all these things are going to start going up as we head into the winter. Anything else?
As far as percentage, generally, percentage of budget, we're in the sort of, was it 40-50% range?
Well, we're 33% through the year, and we're spending between 26 and 33% of our budget. That's about right. I mean, that's a goal, is that, you know, if we were at 4 months in and we had spent 60% of our budget, I would be concerned.
Well, there's a few things that are above 60% in here, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, Because some things get paid out, and don't forget all the salary lines encumber things, so they'll show those things as almost zero.
Well, special education, transportation services.
Yeah.
They're all way above 50%.
That cost has gone up dramatically.
Any other questions for Jay? Thanks, Jay.
Going back to Richard's classroom.
There we go.
Can I just like set my office up there and just say?
There we go. You should at least decorate.
What town is there today then?
What's that?
What town are you chaperoning this year, today?
Don't know. I just go there and I'm like, grandpa. Oh, Cheryl's up. Oh, she's down.
All right.
She's up, she's down, she's up.
All
All
right.
right,
New business?
yeah, it doesn't look like Mr. Messick is here again, so I think we can jump right over to our next one, out-of-state field trip.
All right.
Hello.
Hey there.
Myself over here.
All right.
I'm Ally Donahue, a first grade teacher at Memorial, and we are proposing a field trip to Roger Williams Park Zoo, but it's out of state, so here I am. They have a really great program where each class gets to individually go in with one of the zoo experts, and we talk about animal adaptations, which is a huge thing in first grade, especially with our Project Lead the Way module. There's a whole module on animal adaptations and kind of creating your own adaptations to an environment. So it really puts it into perspective for them. They get to see a couple animals in person. And this time we're doing nocturnal animals. So ones that they don't typically get to see every day. So we'd love to go. Be super great. I have gone before last year, and then with the last district I was at as well. It's always been really great. Students love it. We get time to explore the zoo, see other animals, and it's pretty budget friendly when you compare it to other places in the area like Southwick or even other options to go. Any questions?
So I'll just make one comment. When I originally saw it come through, I thought you were crazy at first, because there was a motion to approve the overnight. I was thinking, yes, what a break.
No.
That's what it says, you know?
I need
I would not pass the principal test.
Right. I figured Jay had twisted your arm.
I'm not
going. All right, someone will make a motion to approve, or any other questions first?
Motion to approve the out-of-state field trip request to Roger Williams.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We're good. Great.
Awesome.
Thank you. Have
Thanks,
fun.
guys. Thank you, Ally.
You're welcome.
All right, so we got the elementary school improvement plan.
Jay would like us to move quickly.
Principal Bell.
Get
Principal
to
Gardner.
round out the evening here. You want us over here? Yeah, it's easier for them. With them here. I'm just kidding. Can I grab some of this water? Cheers. I feel like Liz and I have sat up here frequently this year.
Good we have. Okay. So we are here to present the elementary school improvement plan to you. You're gonna hear that we're gonna cover, obviously, you're very familiar with our kind of 4 bucket areas here for the strategic plan. So we'll talk about how we are, well, community support, I feel like is through all of them, but you'll see for the first 3 for sure, like that our plan involves all of these strategic priority areas.
So this is just a quick overview of the 3 buckets that our goals fall under, and then we're going to go into detail about each of them. So we have a deeper learning goal, high quality curriculum and instruction goal, and each of us have our own more school specific goal. Under equity, inclusion, and well-being, Memorial's focusing more on engagement, and Cliff is focusing on communication this year. All right, so I am up. So this is a general overview of our deeper learning goal, and I'm going to go into depth about all of our action steps and benchmarks for the year.
Our overarching goal is for our students to engage more deeply with our elementary curriculum through authentic learning experiences that bring together multiple subject areas. This is going to be a multi-year goal that we're embarking on this year. So I'm excited to share with you just kind of some of the steps that we've already kind of gotten started with, but also that we're planning on through the remainder of this year. So we're trying to hit the goal from several different angles in both the design as well as the redesign of instructional units for our teachers. Our goal is to have all of our students engaging more deeply with curriculum and infusing authentic learning experiences more regularly into their school day learning. So some key action steps for this goal are, losing my place here, dedicating grade level meeting time to looking more carefully at student work, actually having the teachers bring the student work, not just the data, but the actual pieces that students are producing to our grade level meetings, and then looking at the work and redesigning instruction that refocuses our learning objectives to include more higher order thinking skills, analysis, creation, application, and design. We have some awesome instructional partners working in our buildings. They're actually faculty members that are being trained in how to be effectively instructional coaches in the building, in addition to their other jobs. At Memorial, our instructional partners have taken some coursework in agency and building student agency in their work, and they're working on this year, starting actually at our staff meeting tomorrow. No, Wednesday. Losing track of the days. On Wednesday to share a protocol for how to level up agency and student work.
And we are focusing on reflection, as you saw tonight, that is what our area, I mean, we're absolutely utilizing, different elements of deeper learning, but the reflection is the piece that we're targeting to really dive into at all the grade levels to get to that goal of deeper learning.
So our instructional partners are working closely on PD days, in our staff meetings, in grade level meetings with our teachers. And they're also working with some individual teachers who have a stronger initial interest in trying to level up their agency in their classrooms. So there's a few classrooms, and we're not really calling them lab classrooms. You may see that in the school improvement plan, but they're really digging in with certain teachers to do that work, to kind of almost pilot it and so that we can then scale it up in coming years. We're utilizing, I'm really excited about this, newly designed authenticity and agency protocols. The high school designed an authenticity protocol that we actually tried out this past week at Memorial in 2 grade levels. And it truly does work. It was really magical to see an assignment. Our 4th grade teachers had an assignment that they had created that they hadn't actually done yet. And we used the protocol, and all of a sudden it came to life and became a really authentic project for kids. So we started doing that work this past week, and we're going to use the same protocol that we use for the authenticity with an agency document that our instructional partners have used as well. So we're kind of dipping our toes into the different elements of deeper learning this year and just looking at the design of our units and how are we elevating the type of learning that the kids are doing. What have I missed? We're hoping to make some progress on our curriculum maps and writing, kind of infusing elements of authenticity into our writing that we're assigning to the students. And that's going to be ongoing work throughout the year. Oh yes, that's our biggest piece is probably way. I do have it written here, just all over the place. We're continuing to work towards 100% of our elementary classroom teachers being trained in Project Lead the Way. At Memorial, we're hoping that all of our teachers will be trained mid-year. We kind of got stalled out because our lead trainer at Memorial has been on maternity leave for the full first half of the year. So we're trying to work with Ryan Robidoux to figure out a way to get more teachers trained before January. And Clough is aiming for most of their teachers to be trained by the end of the year, and then the remainder hopefully next summer.
Well, yeah, and then we had to get so Jen Hall is our person who is where they have had their technology teacher who was the trainer but is on maternity leave now, or no? Yes, she's
Katie.
Yeah. So now we had her trained, so we're working on a schedule of her training more teachers, but we have more than Memorial has the need to be trained.
So the interesting thing about Project Lead the Way is that the units are designed and the lessons, the first time you go through them, you need to kind of go through them as they're designed. But one of the things that we're learning is that they can actually be adjusted and tweaked and We're hoping that as people become more familiar with the units, because we've purchased multiple different modules for each grade level at this point, that teachers will start to make them their own. And we can even use the authenticity protocols with them to even level those up as well.
And I just went with a couple, I think a couple of your teachers and our
Yes.
teachers went last week to a Project Lead the Way conference to get more information and, think about how we can build on what we're already doing.
And then the last thing that kind of falls under this bucket, I think you're gonna see some overlap between between our two big buckets this year. And you saw it with the fourth graders that came tonight. In both schools, our fourth grade teachers are implementing elements of reflection into their daily routines. At Memorial, our teachers are, each of the four fourth grade classrooms is trying out a different technology piece to developing their portfolios. One classroom's using Google Sites, one classroom's using Seesaw, one's using Canva, I think, and then I think one is doing it like you are in Binder. So we're trying out different ways of how we're going to reflect throughout the year. And both schools will be using student-led conferences as like a jumping off point for sharing information with parents. We're hoping to bring them all back in at the end of the year to kind of look at the progress of their kids and have a celebration of learning, in particular in fourth grade. That was the first goal.
So moving into high quality curriculum instruction, again, you're going to see some things overlap, but we said overall, we're really looking to represent the authentic journey of students' overall growth by monitoring and communicating progress. We were here in front of you at the beginning of the year talking about that changeover, about how we really want to tell the kids' story of their growth and their progress, but and also obviously continue to utilize continuous formal and informal tasks and narratives. And so some of that, what that looks like is that, having a new report card template and also timeline of how we're reporting and the student-led conferences. Those are things where we're really trying to work with the teachers and change how they're sharing out the student growth. Another piece is that also we want to kind of make sure that as we're doing, like you saw tonight with the reflection with parents, with kids reflecting, but then also sharing that with parents, and then having parents have a chance to kind of really get feedback from them about how that process is going throughout the year. And, so I'll be curious after we do this first round of student-led conferences with our fourth graders to get feedback from the parents too about how that goes. We just sent out, information to our parents about this coming up, and we really focused on at Clough, we kind of focused on working with our kids about those I'm going to forget the heading that we say on the report card. We talk about behavior supporting students' school success. And so, how kids are going to be able to talk about those skills, which aren't necessarily things that you would see, on a math test per se, but that, what we see day to day with how the kids are progressing in those areas. What else was I going to say? So Wendy touched on that a little bit too, and also part of this goal is that how we are really adjusting our data inquiry cycles that we're doing with our teams. We've both actually changed even our schedule to make those to focus more on that time when we have with our grade level teams, I would say, and even just how we are targeting, covering all of the content areas, making sure that they are bringing student work that we're, I think we're very good at looking at data of students, but then the next step of what are we doing to kind of, as she said, redesign their learning and take action immediately based off of here's what we saw, we just looked at with the grade level team, here's what we saw happening in their writing. Okay, this group right here, what are we going to do tomorrow to change, because they're not picking up on this whatever area that we were focused on, for example. So that is also falls under this goal, is kind of that whole data protocol that we're implementing with all of our grades. We're continuing to work on having common assessments that teachers are utilizing. We also under here, I can't remember if you had mentioned this, but we are very excited that we have a very specific partnership with the WELL Collaborative which is written expressive language I forget what the second L is, but learning or lab or, but we have partnered with these researchers out of, the University of New Haven, and they are coming and working specifically with our K and 1 at both schools, but also with second through fourth with some generalized professional development throughout the year, but really, targeting kind of that whole collecting student work, implementing very specific structured literacy, explicit writing strategies, and seeing then collecting the data, like how are the kids picking up with this? How are they, how are they building on their writing? And not that we are, doing a new writing curriculum, but that we are embedding with what we're already doing, very specific, explicit instruction. And we're very excited we've already had some initial meetings with this group. They're going to be coming in also and doing some modeling of these strategies so that our teachers can actually see it in action with our kids. I think that might be, I think I covered everything under that goal. We can go to the next one. This is where we each have our own specific ones. I don't know where we start, and then where is it?
Not, oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I don't mind starting.
Okay.
So each year when we do our spring survey to families, the school council takes a look at the areas that are kind of popping up as areas of need for the following year. And one of the things that kind of came across loud and clear is that we're not doing enough school-wide events at Memorial. So that's where that goal came from this year. I'm thrilled to be at the point where we're doing these things again. And so this Wednesday night, we have our first family night of the year. It's a family math night. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's been a lot of work to pull together, but it's been a real collaboration I actually have a parent who is a mathematician. She works, I think, at Providence College, and she teaches math, and she's coming in and she's doing a whole thing with kids. We have a slideshow. Parents have put how they do math in their jobs, and we have a whole slideshow of a whole bunch of parents who are sharing how math is a part of their work as an adult. So I'm really excited about our first night on Wednesday night. And then in the later winter months, we will have a literacy night as well that Leah Hagan is designing, kind of taking the lead on that. A couple other things that we're doing to kind of bring the parents into the school a bit more. We're trying to work on a showcase of learning for each grade level that will not be just like a project. We're not just focused on like an end product that kids are going to show off to their parents, but more a celebration of the learning, kind of going along with that authentic journey and showing progress for kids. So portfolio wise, thinking about how we can do some of that in the younger grades, even though they're not digging as deeply into it as fourth grade is. So that'll be an opportunity for parents to come into the building and get to see what their kids are doing and what they've done all year. That will be in the springtime. We've kind of shifted the way that we're running our parent-teacher conferences, in particular in grade 4, but you'll notice parents at Memorial, you may notice some shifts even in K through 3 in the way that the teachers are approaching it, making it more about the progress and the journey of the individual child. We were working with PTO to plan a welcome back picnic this past August, and then we had suspected thunderstorms that never came to fruition, and that had to be canceled. So we're working to come up with something for later in the springtime for the whole community to come together, not a fundraiser, just a time for everybody to come together and be a community. So those are kind of some of the things that we're doing to bring people into the building. We had a great turnout for volunteers for our cardboard creation day last week. One of the grade levels, I think I had 15 parents in the gym helping. So it was just really nice to be able to get people into the building and excited about being with their kids and their learning.
And so likewise, when I did parent feedback at the end of the year last year, what I noticed was that at a school-wide office level, parents felt like the communication was good, but it was inconsistent from grade to grade and class to class. And so that came through loud and clear. So as a staff, we talked about how, that this is what, we're hearing from parents. And we have a lot of multiples in our building. And so that's another area where we for sure hear from parents that some even have triplets that we have. So, we talked about how like it's really important that of course we're not gonna be all the same, but that we shouldn't have any time where a parent is feeling like, you know, one year they know a lot, they hear a lot, and then the next year they don't hear anything. So one of the steps that we've already done is just simply having these conversations with staff, but also we started off the year at one of our staff collaboration times, just sort of like, what are we already doing? Like, what do we know? You know, let's just share from grade to grade and class to class, you know, okay, if you're doing like a monthly newsletter, but you are doing like a weekly email that's going home, some teachers have a blog, other people have sites. So just what are we already doing to just share information out, and what kinds of information are we sharing? You know, sometimes it was like some grades were recognizing like, well, we're sharing like kind of like activities and events, but other grades were like, well, we're really focusing on like the curriculum and what we're doing. So having those conversations just about what we're already doing so that people can be aware within each other, sometimes within each other's grades and also cross grades. And then I said, okay, so, you know, like, how can we bump it up? Like, what can we do to take it to the next level? So some of the things that came out were some of the things that Wendy talked about with, you know, figuring out ways to showcase students learning more. And sometimes that means the way that we share the information home, but sometimes we said, you know, can we bring in parents more to like, you know, actually celebrate not just always the final product, but like the process of, you know, a project they worked on, or, you know, a writing task or something like that. So right now, that's what we're looking at, kind of different ways to level it up, but also making sure that teachers are aware that parents are noticing that there's a difference sometimes from class to class, and we don't want that to be as obvious. We want it to be that everybody is really focusing in on that two-way communication. And, you know, some of the other areas that we have, we love and utilize the Talking Points app for our English language learning families. And that has been, the feedback has been very successful with utilizing that of information, you know, constantly going back and forth between some of our families. And we're going to continue doing that. Also just like I'm trying to do a little bit more of checking in with feedback throughout the year, as opposed to kind of, you know, I've done the sort of the end of the year collecting feedback from parents, but trying to check in. Like we had our open house and curriculum nights, and I call them two different things because they really were two different. Like one night was an open house where kids were coming, and one night was when kids weren't there and it was curriculum night. So for right now, like that's the same as how we've always done it. But I collected feedback from families right after it to say, like, what do we think? Like, you know, and sharing that with teachers, because sometimes it's the teachers want to hold on to like what they've always done. But, you know, now I have some information to say, well, parents are really feeling like this was effective or this was not so effective. And so we need to listen to that. So trying to collect that feedback about just communication throughout the year, as opposed to waiting to the whole end of the year to get that too. So, so that is our focus. And I would say also what kind of actually falls under this, I think for, well, sort of with this one, but which we didn't speak to, but we both have been doing, we are doing whole child reviews in our schools, which means really looking at like all the different domains of our students. And one area is sort of family, home connection, engagement. And so really making sure that we're not just talking about students' academics, but that the whole child, and like really thinking from all aspects. And sometimes we just had hours today, we had a whole day of that. And so this is why it's in my head, because some of the conversations we had were like, we should ask the parents that when they come in for conferences about this, or we should all be aware of, we know that this family is dealing with this. So just even that's another layer of really opening up the communication, the connection between home and school.
So that's our improvement plan in a 8-minute nutshell. Do you have any questions for us?
So all of this sounds fantastic. With all the other plans, we have a spreadsheet in different areas and plans, each line.
The action steps and everything, yeah.
Yeah, the action steps. Is that available?
Yeah.
Okay, love to see that.
just say my kids loved cardboard creation day.
Ah.
Fantastic. Also with I know you've got the new report card information night. Just make sure parents are aware of that change and all of that, because I could see a change. Change is hard.
It is. It is.
Yeah, and I mean, with that, like, I know we're gonna be having one at Club as well, but also like we at our, I think, I mean, I don't know, I think it's with you, but I know at ours,
Yes.
we spoke about it at our curriculum open house night. Like, we're, slowly sending things out in little snippets, like I said, I just did for like specifically to fourth grade, like trying to like,
And
share.
teachers are going to have the new report
Yeah.
cards out at conferences to really go over it with the parents and talk. So that's gonna be like, they're gonna hopefully come to my night on the 20th, and then they'll go into conferences and get a little bit more from the teacher specifically, so.
Yeah, I gotta say, for all my kids, I didn't see the type of engagement that you guys are talking about when they went through
In what way?
in elementary schools.
Like, what do you mean
In this
engagement?
Well, the kind of conversation between the teachers, with the teachers about our individual kids.
Yes.
That did not happen. So I'm really happy to see the improvements you guys are planning. to
The
make.
teachers are really excited about it as well. They're excited about the changes to the report card. They think it's clearer for them, which makes it clearer for the parents. So hopefully that touch point at the end of November will be really good for the parents and the teachers to be able to have that discussion.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like the structure wasn't there. So the teachers, it wasn't like they were avoiding it. They just didn't have the structure to think about it. So
Yeah.
it didn't happen. And as a parent, you're sitting there going, where's my kid stand? So I really appreciate those improvements.
Regarding the NTC calls, that almost sounds like a where you have authentic, like, can you just talk on a little bit about?
Sure. Do you want me to talk about, want me to give you the example of what happened in fourth grade last week? That might be helpful. I want to make sure I give it the justice it deserves. Because I wish I had a video to like show the group in action. So essentially, a team will present, and I hope I do this well, John and Marianne. A team will present an activity or an assignment or a project that they want to level up with authenticity. So in grade 4, our teachers are teaching about different ways that writers organize informational text, cause and effect, problem solution. There's different text structures that you can use when you're writing about information, right? So the assignment that they came to us with was to research a topic in social studies and determine which 2 text structures you could use to organize your writing and write it from both of those structures. So so what you do is you look at it, you look at the strengths of the project, the protocol, the high school designed it, but it has you look at elements of authenticity. Gosh, I can't even remember all of the elements. It's like,
Yeah, sometimes it might be like, how could you connect this to the community? Like, I feel like there was a question like, so, how could you, bring this to be like something that's like, a community connection, something like, how could you utilize technology to, like take it to another level?
open it up so that I have it.
Clients.
Yeah,
Who the audience might be.
Yeah, oh yeah, who would the audience be thinking about that?
Like, so like thinking outside of just your school, who are you writing this for? Who are you doing this for? And then there's like different like hows, so how you could level it up, things you can look for, some sparks. It's a really great document that they've created. Maybe you can give them a copy of it so that they can see it, because it's too much for me to share right now. So essentially we go through that, we brainstorm, and it was literally like, hey, what about this? What about, and no idea is bad at that point. You're just throwing things down, and we came up with a whole entire list. And in the end, this is what we came up with for a project. They decided to have the students learn about 3 of the Massachusetts ballot questions. The ones that are okay to learn about. So the impasse question, the unions, like whether the Uber drivers should be able to unionize, and then the tips, the
No
servers and tips. No, no mushrooms. So we decided to have them like learn about those three. And one of the things that they talked about was taking, all the things that we all got in the mail that describe the ballot questions and running it through AI to make it more kid-friendly language so that the kids might understand it a little bit better. So they were going to inform them about those three things. And then just the kids were going to get to decide which one they were most interested in. And from there, they'd research the question a bit more, seek out people in the community who might be impacted and interview them, which makes it even more authentic, right? And then write a piece using one of the text structures that they learned about to share more about the ballot question. The piece we didn't get to because we ran out of time is who's going to see that? Why are you writing it? What's your purpose for writing? So that would be the next step we would take. But really what we came up with in that it was literally a 25-minute time period was really, really neat. So we're kind of excited because it's like this tool that we now have at our fingertips to help us to look at something from a little bit of a different angle and think outside the box. And it wasn't threatening to the teachers at all. Sometimes teachers like to own what they've always done, right? So this helped them to kind of think outside the box a little bit. I hope that's helpful.
Honestly, it's really helpful.
Okay.
But like, and I'll even go on, like even sometimes when you guys present, those examples resonate a lot more sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not a teacher, I guess one person
Yeah.
is, it's like, there's a lot of the words that.
Conceptual language.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
It would be really cool if you came in to the school sometime and like come join us at a grade level meeting, you can kind of see what's happening.
Absolutely.
I was gonna
That
say,
is-
so we haven't had a chance to do that at Clough yet, but like I was part of the leadership team when John and Mary Ann like had us practice it. And I mean, and that was I think what I was most amazed at was like in a span of like, I forget the time, it was like
15 minutes.
Yeah, we only had like 15 minutes, but like but we like at the group I was in, we used a writing example. We're like, well, this is a writing task that we would normally give kids, and everybody would do the same thing. And then within 15 minutes, it was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna go take this and we're gonna advocate for this, and like the kids are gonna be like so gung ho to do it. So that's the piece is like, really, you're still accomplishing the same task of like, working on those specific writing strategies and those specific types of writing. But like you're gonna engage them, they're gonna feel like there's purpose to this and meaning to it, and and the teachers.
I wish you guys could see what we see every day because it does like, our excitement probably, you're like, why are you so excited about this? It's just like, it's what we
hour of
love.
the day,
Yeah,
but,
especially
okay.
at 9 o'clock.
Is that the authenticity protocol?
It is.
That is, okay.
Yep.
So this.
And we have one for agency as well that
Okay.
our elementary staff have worked on. And then our goal, there's like the 4 different buckets for deeper learning. Our goal is to create one for collaboration and one for reflection
And
as
so,
well.
yeah, right.
So that we can easily say, hey, let's level this up for reflection and put the activity through the protocol. It
But what
doesn't
is,
take long.
yeah, and that's what I think is nice for us, I think, especially at the elementary level, because I mean, we are jazzed about this, but our teachers, they teach everything.
Right.
They don't get to specialize and just focusing on one subject. So it is a lot, like when we're coming to them and saying like, we need to, push you to do different things. But when you can take something like this and see you in a short amount of time, that it doesn't take long to, add a little bit more, sometimes, and it might not be as major as like what she described. That sounds awesome, right? But it could just be a slight, I think about like, the reflection stuff that we're working on, just getting them to just do it like one thing, like, for kids to reflect on what they just learned on the math test, right? Like that's like one thing, right? And so next time you do a little bit more, that kind of thing. So it is exciting.
So all this sounds fantastic. So the thing that I'm missing though is something I can refer back to.
Yeah, we'll get that.
Yeah.
So I've got this written out. I don't trust my own notes.
No, we will send you the document.
Good, excellent.
I need to clean that one up a little bit.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
gonna
no,
send
it's
them that
okay.
one.
It's okay.
I move to approve the elementary school improvement plan.
Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out tonight. All right, where are we? Subcommittees. All right. Budget. up first.
So the budget subcommittee met last on October 9th. We haven't met since the last school committee meeting. Our next meeting is on December 11th, just before the next capital planning meeting.
Beautiful. All right. Policy subcommittee, have you guys met since we've been here?
We have not met, and our next meeting is scheduled for November 8th.
All right. Superintendent evaluation committee,
Haven't met since last time either. Next meeting is February 4th.
all right. And then capital planning, that one did meet.
We did meet, we actually met on the day that we found out we did into the SBA for the Pure Denmark. At that meeting, Dr. Cohen and Jay were asked to shorten the list of priorities for the capital plan. So we kind of considered that rounding into shape as far as capital plans would look like, what the assets are going to look like, targeting a for capital plan for approval and board for this town's to fund it spring, and with the discussion held on experience to priorities. Our next meeting will also be held on December.
Back to back. There's no other matters that weren't anticipated within 48 hours of posting that have come to me. Good there. Future agenda items, we've got school tour plan for Municipal Hill Middle School. I've got the outer country field trip request for Italy, maybe Japan as well. Student data analysis and budget presentations. With that, we can make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at 8:33.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned at 8:33.